sometimes been said that the stories that are told are a chain that has no beginning and no end. It can be said that the stories of the last several days have opened another link in that chain. There's a simple story that allows a question to be asked of us. It's a story about a king who every day had his baker bake loaves of bread to be given out to those in need. And the king delighted in staying hidden behind a secret screen and listening and observing those who came to receive his largesse. Amongst those who came were two dervishes, known as seekers, of course, by their patchwork robes. And every day, when the first dervish received his loaf of bread, he loudly thanked the monarch. "Oh, great monarch, thank you for the gift of this bread." And the second dervish would merely look up to the heavens and silently give thanks. Now, observing this, the king was quite peeved, and he decided to reward the first dervish. And so, the next day, he told his baker to bake bread, a loaf containing gold pieces, with strict instructions that the loaf containing the gold pieces was to be given to the first dervish. Now, as the king observed, when the dervishes came in line to receive their bread, the first dervish was given the loaf containing the gold pieces, and the second just an ordinary loaf, as given to all others. The next day, the king noted that the second dervish did not come in line to receive bread, and he could not help himself but to ask the first dervish, who again stood in line, why he was still lining up for the gift of bread. And the first dervish told him, "Well, when I was given my loaf of bread, I noticed that it was very heavy, so I thought to myself that maybe the baker had not baked it correctly, and that perhaps its heaviness was due to some other reason. So I exchanged my loaf of bread with my friend who came with me." From this, the king had a very profound realization. And the question that's asked of us is, what was the realization that the king had arising from this experience? As was asked the other day, following the story that was told, but not put in so many words, are you still playing God? Is there still a shred, a trace, a thread of doing good in you? What was the realization that came to the king from the experience of giving the bread?
And that God decides who is going to be rewarded or not him.
You bet. So it's asked of you, are you still playing God, doing good? What does this story bring to us relative to this?
It's like the king was interfering with God's work, and that we could do the same.
Yeah.
And to be aware of that, I guess.
Yes.
I would be surprised if the king actually did get that clarity, because the king was really operating from a very egotistical place of the people who thank me are the good people, and the people who just recognise that I'm not. So I suspect that the king didn't get that message, but I get that message.
Absolutely. And why have we been doing good? Why have we been doing good?
I understand also that I was trained to do good. I was the helper in my family, and that kind of, you don't recognise for a long time when you're doing it, and things kind of bring up that awareness bit by bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of a form of self-praise, isn't it?
Absolutely it is.
It's what, sorry?
Self-praise.
To do good.
Mm.
Well, it's to be, I guess, to get a sense of I am okay.
Yeah.
To get that sense of being good enough.
Yes.
I don't think it's praise in terms of see how good I am, but it is saying, please let me know that I'm okay.
Yes. And what does that come down to? Nothing more than an I am, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I am, and I don't need to buy the right to be here.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not that easy to honour the journey of the other person, particularly when they're your own children and you see them suffering, and you have to stand back and Well, that's their experience.
Certainly. We have our challenges in many, many ways, particularly relative to our children and their suffering or appeared suffering.
I did think that the second man was more viewing the thanks from the bread on a bigger scale.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so, and then I struggled to realise why he hadn't returned for any more free bread, because he'd got enough money to buy his own, I suppose.
Yes, exactly so. He did not need the largesse.
Yeah.
And why didn't he share it with the other guy?
He wasn't
He
into
wasn't
this
gonna play
whole doing good thing.
Can be shared without doing good. It's a set of mind, it's not sharing or not sharing.
They don't send emails.
Well, actually, he shared it the day after, but he had to come back to the king, the first one, to explain to the king what was going on.